Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I come to you today presenting a very fantastic game. A game of sheer talent and brute force strength. In the top side of the map, in the blue color, playing as Kronos, his name is Soup. In the bottom corner of the map, playing as Thor, his name is Keto. So together, we're going to be witnessing a very, very exciting series of games here. These two players did decide to play a handful of games on the ladder, and I've handpicked out 3 of them that looked really, really interesting for us to take a little cheeky look-see in. This matchup here, Kronos versus Thor, incredibly challenging for the Kronos player for many, many different reasons. So I want to check out exactly what Soup is going to be going for in this game and see if we can learn anything from him. I mean, he does have the biggest brain in Age mythology, so he's always coming up with really fun ideas. You can already see that the oracle here for Soup is very far forward. If we take a quick look at Keto, he sees the oracle and he sees exactly what's going to be coming for him, as I assume this is going to be a deconstructed armory for Mr. Keto himself, as I do not believe he even gets out his his first armory upgrade. Let's have a quick look. Did he get it? 35? No, he did not. Which means now Keto needs to go in for something very, very different, as Soup has forced him out of the fast Dwarven armory build, out of a lot of villages to get an economic advantage, and all of a sudden, you know, Soup's going to be able to start putting pressure on. Temple is up for Keto. The good thing for Soup, however, is he doesn't have to go for an incredibly aggressive opening here. The bad thing is he is going for an incredibly aggressive opening at the moment. Not that it's a bad thing, but we have seen this being very, very difficult to get success with against the Thor. We'll see if Soup's going to have any extra ideas here. One thing that I really, really enjoy from watching sort of some Kronos players develop is the usage of Caraballister and Leto and trying to use like spider layers and things like that to get damage done. As we've got, after all is said and done, we do have the 4 city coming through. Leto is almost finished here. Thank you as well to the Thora for the 6 months, my friend. Appreciate you. And let's see, does this get spotted? Answer, no. And look at Keto. He hasn't left his base just yet. He hasn't left it at all. He's got no scouting on the map. Compared over to Soup, who's got a ton of the map scouted. He doesn't really know where the units are. The villages are underneath the main town center here. The automatons going to be rushing forward. Now, no access to a deconstruction on the temple, so there will be some Hersor out to cause some problems here, as the villagers are all just going to pop in and start eating up the hunt underneath the town center for the moment, but still economic damage is done. Automatons need to retreat away. Hersor at 4.5 speed will be able to chase those automatons away and get a significant amount of damage done to them. Also getting some goats here on the retreat path, but Keto going to be picking those up for himself. There's actually tons of goats on this position. That's actually wild, but they're going to go over to Keto, it looks like. As behind this, Temple coming back home. We do have a cheeky counter barracks up as well. And Keto actually forced, though actually not forced, but forced to get himself to use a Dwarven mine. This isn't the worst thing in the world to drop a Dwarven mine in the classical age. You're still basically getting yourself pickaxe here, which is for free while you're mining that 1,000 gold. So that can be a really, really nice boost to the economy. As the automaton does go down, going to get healed back up as well. And that's going to mean Keto has to just keep on making Hersor. So this is the thing. When you go through Leto, it allows the Thor player to effectively just go mass Hersor. And then you have to ask yourself as the Kronos player, how am I going to deal with that? I can't really spam out automatons into mass Hersor. The Dwarven armory now going to be coming through. I imagine he's going to get himself Hammer of Thunder first, and then he's going to start just getting everything else under the sun here. That being said, he will be restricted to his base while waiting for those upgrades to come through as the first of many spider lairs coming in. The spider eggs do give a little bit of line of sight. It's worth it to drop them down onto different resources and things like that, as the Chiroballister hero is in. Now, one thing here that you can do with this Chiroballister hero, which is really, really nice, is utilize a time shift building, whether a manor or an economic guild or a temple or a counter barracks. Literally anything can be an idea, as Soup continuously moving back and forth over this cheeky little spider egg, trying to snipe off a raiding cavalry or something, but keeping his hero Chiroballister alive, as now the Catapulties are going to be joining in as an answer for the raiding cavalry there. And more Chiroballister to come through, and this hero Chiroballister is packing an absolute punch here. Those Soup almost getting out of position again, getting a little bit more splash damage done, a little bit more poke damage, and the healing spring is up. I'm going to be healing up these units, but now Keto sees the Catapulties. There's also a Mamillo in the mix. This means Mamillo, Catapulties, Chiroballister, everything is going to be coming for him. He has to make a really, really difficult decision now moving forward. Does he either A, try and pump out Mass Herser and try and deal with the Chiroballister, or B, does he try and make himself out raiding cavalry to try and snipe those Chiroballister, but then have to deal with a whole bunch of Catapulties here? Very, very difficult question to answer, as a sniping down that Berserk as it runs straight into the Chiroballister. Really nice play. And Keto is just super out of position here. He's almost finished on that Dwarven Mine as well, which does mean he's going to be gold starved. Not pushing back onto that forward gold mine has actually been a really big mistake for him. In fact, I wouldn't mind seeing that time shift coming through just to block in the longhouse and this position, so the Chiroballister have got a really nice position for them to stand in and not need to keep on moving back and forth. But on the back here, we've got that longhouse coming down. The dwarves are going to be sneaking down onto this bottom position. There is a cheeky little oracle to move in and be checking out those rhinoceros, as it's obvious for Soup that Keto is going to be wanting to push over there. Meanwhile, units starting to push forward. We've got the double now. The double spider lairs onto this position, as Keto trying to split out, trying to push forward here, but he knows that he really can't enter this position. As the Berserks over here getting pushed back, we've got another longhouse getting dropped down as the Chiroballister get a little bit more damage done onto those dwarves. They're all going to have to retreat away. Another Berserk getting sniped. Soup is controlling this early game beautifully thus far. The Chiroballister still getting those pokes off over and over and over again. He's got no ability to make those dwarves that he really wants to, but he's got 26 villagers on food for the time being. He's happily finishing up the rhinoceros down the bottom, as Soup realistically can't move that far down there. It's going to get him out of position away from those spider eggs that he's already placed. But what can Keto do? I mean, he can wait for 50 favor. The favor's coming in relatively quickly at the moment. He's got 7 Herser with Hammer of Thunder, as the deconstruction onto the tower does give a little bit of resources back over to Keto. I'm not 100% sure I really like using deconstruction on towers at the moment. The towers obviously are scary, and this does open this position up, but still, nonetheless, units coming through. Chiroballister's getting damage done. The box formation is in, as the army for Keto absolutely gigantic. The automatons are tanking beautifully. Great control with those Catapulties over here to push the raiding cavalry off of the Chiroballisters. They are getting huge damage done here. Another raiding cavalry going down. Another one. These Catapulties doing huge damage. It's looking like the army of Keto is managing to break through here, as the final Chiroballister does end up falling, but the entirety of Keto's army looks to be dealt with here, as the throw in action coming in. 86 favor in the bank now, however, does mean Keto can drop a Dwarven Mine if he so chooses and then recreate his army. But He's not even going to go for it. He taps out in this position. Look at the villager difference. It's 30 to 46. I don't know if this game is necessarily over at this moment, but Keto doesn't want to continue. His army gets absolutely eviscerated. And yes, if the automatons can get in and rebuild on all those automatons on the front, then the game looks like it's in a really, really impossible point. But Soup didn't time shift that temple forward to grab these back, and I'm not sure they'd get back up in time. It's a bit of a difficult question to answer, but it does look like a very challenging position. But a win for Soup nonetheless with Kronos in this matchup really shows, maybe, just maybe, Kronos has got an angle here for Leto. I do wonder if this would look any different if Keto just goes mass Herser here or not, but sort of missed the style, maybe even gets himself out enough Herser to get himself the favor to put another Dwarven mine down, a little bit more aggressively trying to mine the gold mine on the front once the Herser had pushed the automatons away, and then putting the Dwarven mine down a little bit later, giving him more time. I'm not 100% sure, but a really well-executed strategy by Soup. Nonetheless, let's move into the next one in this 3-game series. And now we get into the second game in this 3-game series. It's going to be Soup with Freyr versus Keto with Loki on the map Marsh. I like this matchup. I think this matchup's really, really interesting. The Freyr players don't really get to enjoy their Ulla, Aegir, Vidar line as much against Norse. Against Loki, it might be a little bit different. I'm not sure. Maybe the Frey players out there can let me know. But generally speaking, this matchup feels really, really fun to play from both sides. The only problem is that you have to be really hyper aware of where your opponent's army is. Meaning, the Loki player, most likely, as we're seeing a spy coming down here, most likely is going to be wanting to spy the enemy army, would be my guess on the whole situation. I mean, the other option is you can be putting houses down onto town centers and things and just making sure you know what's going on. But if you spy the enemy army, then they're not going to be able to go for any sort of cheeky town centers, and they're not going to be able to get any sort of ability to get off like a really, really effective Golden Bursty. So the game plan, as far as I'm concerned here, for the Frey player is, you're going Freyr, you're going for raiding cavalry, you're trying to put early pressure on, you're trying to use the bonuses of having cheaper upgrades to help your economy out. You're not really looking for any fights. And if you can sneak up a town center, sneak it up, and it's going to be tough to push off of that position. Now, from the Loki point of view, you're looking to contain as well. So I don't know if you can really do that with Forseti, or I think you might actually want to go for Heimdall in this matchup. Now, we'll see what Keto's going to go for. He is one of the leading Frey players on the ladder at the moment, so he knows the weaknesses, he knows the strengths of that god to a very, very high level. He's obviously had a lot of wins and losses with those gods, with Frey, so he's going to be able to try to exploit that from Soup. But, Soup, the best Frey player on the ladder, 110% of the time, every single time. We'll see what he's going to be able to do. I'm very excited to see if this is going to be like a Ford Temple or something from Keto. It's very, very rare to see him play a hyper-aggressive game. He's much more defensively orientated, whereas Soup is actually on the very, very different. He much prefers to be the aggressive player, even though he is playing the defensive god Frey. We got some relics on the map. Arrows of Heracles over here. Up on this side, we've got ourselves the Girdle of Hippolyta, plus 10% base hit points there. Really, really nice one. That's going to help out a ton for the throwing axeman wars that might happen here for Soup. I imagine he's going to grab that very, very quickly. Scales of the Echidna here, probably not the biggest of impact for the Norse wars. Of course, you're going to be wanting to make those myth units out at some point, but it's not like you can go heavy into them. They're going to come anyways. And we do indeed see Heimdall here for Keto. So I'm actually not surprised about this anymore. It was obvious for everyone and their mum that, Forseti is the best for Loki and for Thor, because Forseti has Mithril Breastplate, it's got trolls, and then all of a sudden the Freyr came in and said, you just can't. it's just too hard to defend against everything. So with the Force city, so they go, okay, well, if we have to play a defensive game, we'll go for Heimdall, and all of a sudden, I'm going to be able to build up a huge army. I'm going to have the Ironhery to give my army a mini flaming weapons, and we're going to have a really, really good game of it. I don't need those berserk upgrades. I don't need those trolls because I've got enough extra economy to make it happen. But Soup is almost reading this to some degree and not going through Freyr, instead going for Ulla. So he's going to have the really strong infantry. He's going to have those, the ability to kind of place a Asgardian hill fort somewhere really, really nice and potentially get himself that town center up. And he's going to actually be also trying to play a defensive game here. So a really weird start here from both players, almost like it's a meta game on top of a meta game, so to speak, for the moment. Though Longhouse coming down, Great Hall coming down, no surprises there. On the other side here, I'd be surprised to see Soup going for anything other than Longhouses here. Anything other than Longhouses. Question in the chat, if someone goes Heimdall, would your first reaction be they're booming? Your reaction is always to scout. Heimdall has got just as much offensive capabilities as it does have defensive capabilities. It really just depends on where they put things. So this is something that I think most really, really strong Frey players are doing nowadays, is they are getting themselves out that second berserk early on and getting that scouting information, because it's really, really important to know what your opponent's doing. But in this situation, I think Soup he's scouted out the center of the map with his Herser, and he sees no forward base, so he knows it's not going to be an aggressive play. He also sees that there hasn't been any undermine on those longhouses, so he knows that he's going to be at least as quick at building units out as the Loki player will, so there's not really any problems. As the armory comes down, and Super is going to start getting those upgrades in as well. And the water buffaloes in the center of the map getting sniped down. This is really, really important when you're wanting to get that early favor in, as we don't have Rig Stula in just yet for Keto, but this is definitely a technology that I personally queue up immediately. As we are seeing, as I say that, Keto is going to be getting that technology in. It does cost a villager and 5 seconds, but you're going to get that back really, really quickly, as well as all of your buildings are going to be working faster. So you don't need to build as many longhouses, as many great halls. So you don't need to have that resource loss. So in a way, Rigstula, while you lose out on a villager and a bit, you actually gain that back in a really big way, because you don't have to put these buildings down. Even though I'm saying that, we are seeing Keto dropping another longhouse here. Probably could have been an armory instead, but it's not that big of a deal. Okay, so more houses to come down for Keto, and both players just playing very, very defensively. Soup now leaving his base. He's got himself upgrades. So this is going to be where the advantage lies for Soup, is that he's going to be able to, as the Frey player, is because he's going to be able to get the copper weapons, get the copper mail way, 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 way before Keto is going to be going for it. And what this effectively does is it eliminates that advantage which Loki has, which is the 20% bonus damage against, or bonus, 20% extra bonus damage, right? Because you got 10% extra HP and 10% extra damage for the copper weapons and copper mail. So there is a bit of a timing there that Keto is going to have to be aware of. He's going to have to get those upgrades in himself and see what happens. As the raiding cavalry are going to be looking for something to do, and Soup says, well, if you're not going to come kill me, I'm playing the ultimate of defensive Norse gods, and I'm going to build my town center and then grab myself all of these boars, and then it's going to be, I'm going to have a Gullen Bursty. What are you going to do? Now, if I'm Keto here, I got to start thinking, well, I've given him that town center, so I guess the only logical move here is just to accept that and rely on my boosted economy from Rigstula to carry me forward here. But the earlier this town center goes up, and luckily for Keto, he spots it, the less of an advantage that Keto's actually going to get from that Rigstula as well. Berserk is the immortal Berserk? No, the dead Berserk. There's Keto going to be dropping more houses down. Still no town center. It's a little bit interesting. He might go for a Njord timing push is the next sort of idea. That being said, I think it's kind of suicide against Frey. I want to see someone go for a timing attack that works because I need to know how to beat this god. I need to know if I can just do something against this god, apart from just deny town centers. But we saw Njord for half a second, and then Keto has rethought his life choices there. He's got 3 Einherji out, more Great Halls coming down. I imagine he's going to advance first and then get armory upgrades as well and then go for this attack. But we'll see if he's going to be able to make it work. Now, there is something to hitting the Frey player while they're in the classical age, forcing the Gullinbursti out and fighting it. I don't know if that thing is real or not, but the idea is there. In that a classical age Gullinbursti is not as strong as a heroic age Gullinbursti. As the raiding cavalry do get through, they do hit the villagers over here. They are getting a little bit of damage onto the ox cart. Generally speaking, you want to kill off the villagers if you can. Going after the spied villager as Keto does. He has to make a decision here. He's actually going for the attack for the moment as the army of Soup. Where is it? Gullinbursti getting dropped down here. As the army going to be retreating away from... Where's Soup's army? He's getting a 3rd town center? How? Okay. Gullinbursti garrisoning in, going after those Einherji. The army is completely out of position here. And Soup now rejoining. His Gullinbursti is out of here as the Thrown Axeman now pushing forward. And now this is all going Keto all the way. He's still got 1 Einherji left, but it will be falling here as the Hersir get the damage done. But Soup here loses his town center, loses his Gullinbursti, and loses this position. What was Soup thinking there, leaving that position? I guess he just didn't have the information there, and Keto makes him pay for it. Really, really nice play there, as the town center on the bottom, however, will be finishing up. And even after all is said and done, there's now a 6 villager lead cooking. And now Keto can say, hey, you got no Gullinbursti. I'm able to go for a big Njord timing attack. As the Valkyrie on this position going to be getting a little cheeky bit of damage on this side. And we'll get a villager kill or 2. So really, really nice pressure thus far from Keto. We've got the longhouses coming down on the front as well. As the Draugr comes in to just push the Valkyrie back. And you know, Keto's really going to be enjoying having this. Whenever I play Loki and I get a Valkyrie spawn, it's like, yes, now I have a very, very strong raider that I wouldn't normally have access to. Keto can also drop a town center here, though in some ways I get it, in some ways I don't. We see the... now the A-gear has been seen, I kind of get it even more. But if there wasn't any A-gear here, I would just keep spamming out units and going for this big all-in. But when your opponent's got that Tempest in their back pocket, you want to be a little bit more careful with your attacks. Now, here's the next question. Is the idea of Njord here to deal with the rock giant? Obviously here Loki can just build a whole bunch of Hersir and it's totally fine. But a mountain giant has got a huge amount of crush damage. And the rock giant does not have a whole lot of crush armor, 40% only. So the mountain giant can move forward. He can use his special attack, bludgeon, which targets buildings. I could be wrong, but he might be able to target the rock giant as well with that, but nonetheless he does have himself 29.5 crush damage per second. Unfortunately, no bonus versus a myth unit, so it's not a crazy amount of damage, but it's still going to be very, very nice for him, as then he's also going to get the Jotun's technology to get even more melee attack damage in, so he will be able to get that happening. Plus bludgeon means he can start kicking away a whole bunch of units and getting that bonus damage in as well. As the Asgardian Hill Fort going to be coming up. Villager differential still very, very close here. 50 villagers to 54. As the Walking Woods going to get dropped down. Undermine does get clicked onto this position. Is this going to be enough? It looks like it is. The Asgardian Hill Fort going to get denied there. As the thrown action coming through, we see the Tempest needs to get dropped down, but Keto's army is absolutely gigantic in this moment, and it looks like I'm wrong. The Jotun cannot use his special, but he's still getting a decent amount of damage done onto the Rock Giant nonetheless, as all of Soup's army seemingly melted in this fight, even with that Tempest getting a huge amount of freezes. Yeah, good kiting there from Soup, but it's not going to be enough after all is said and done. Rock Giant is down. Jarls coming in as well for Keto. Do these have themselves Ring Giver? They do have Ring Giver already, so they are absolutely gigantic. 276 HP. And this does have a nice way to counter from the other side here from Soup. He can just make those Herdmen out, but then he's going to have to make Herdmen throwing Axemen, which, good, bad, it's difficult. It's difficult, to say the very least. There's a whole bunch of raiding cavalry actually out for Soup. And now Keto can just grab the middle town center, have 4 town centers to 2, and just continue along in this game. We see a whole bunch of Goaty at the moment actually for Soup to try and deal with the Mountain Giant, deal with the Valkyrie, deal with the Trolls. All of these units have got relatively low Pierce armor. In fact, the only one with lower hack armor than Pierce is the Draugr at the moment. So Goaty do make the most sense here for the Norse player. But we'll see how it's all going to go. If Soup can make a comeback here or not. He does have the Bergreezy in, so that's going to be some good damage to kill off a town center or something like that. But 156 of 190 population versus 180 of 190. This is so many units here. The Herdmen coming through here as well. Going to be getting some huge damage done onto those great Jarls, and especially with the taunt coming in from the Soup Bergreezy here onto those Thrown Axemen, as the Thrown Axemen aren't really targeting what they need to target. So there's not that many Herdmen in full. There are a fair few Herdmen actually, but they need to get onto those Jarls. The population for Keto actually falling incredibly quickly here, as it looks like Soup has managed to equalize, and not even just equalize, but get a gigantic lead now cooking. He's going to be able to move over, take this town center down. He's got those 3 Bergrees to get HP back if he wants to by eating buildings. And look at this, look at that HP going back up. It's a huge amount of HP there, as he is going to try and take this position down. The Great Jarls will be able to clean up the Bergreezy on this position. And Soup not really paying attention there. He does get the taunt off to get himself a little bit more armor, but it's not going to be enough as that one goes down. Can Keto get himself out an army now that will deal with this? He's going into mass throwing Axemen. He's got the front line for the time being, but he's going to be losing this 4 town center. Sometimes you just need to cut your losses and not take these fights here as the army charges forward. The Bergreezy not in position, however, as the Goaty going to get a couple of shots off, trying to finish that one off there. But when a taunt comes through, all of a sudden those Jarls get distracted up in a really, really big way, and the Herdmen can clean them up as well. We see one Rock Giant for Keto. That's going to go down very, very quickly. Those Goaty here, no more myth units at the moment for Keto. He's desperately trying to hold on here as more Bergreezy to come through. Going to be tasked onto the town center. Only 400 HP remaining. The population differential is still stark here, with Keto now needing to pull back, and Soup is now taking the score lead. He's still behind on villager count, but armory upgrade wise, full bronze. He's got the bronze upgrades he needs at the very least. No copper shields, but it is coming through. Fortified town centers as well to come in for Soup, and he is going to be enjoying the center of the map now. You have to remember one thing here is that one idea for Keto as the Njord user is snipe up all of those Goaty. Don't build any myth units. Snipe up all those Goaty here, and then you're going to have yourself access to another Walking Woods to come in and help deal with those Bergreezy. But is Villager difference, is Rigsthula enough here in this situation? That's the big question. As the army for Keto on the back, still doesn't have himself heavy infantry. It's going to be coming through right now, which should give him enough of an edge here to sort of take fights and be okay, especially because he's got that Loki boost and he gets the town center up. He will have to turn around and take the fight. 190 versus 200 population. It's finally relatively equal, but the Jotun is going to be coming through. He's got to get those Jarls onto that back line there as the Mountain Giant going to be falling. These throwing action as well, targeting down the Bergrizi is not the best use of them here, as it looks like Soup's army is just too strong for the time being here. There's a troll going to be falling down. More Bergrizi to come in. They can tank up the throwing axeman and kill the town center. You can actually drop the taunt while you're killing off the town center as well, I believe. You just have to manually queue it. But there's no heroes here. There's only the bonus melee or the myth unit bonus damage Jarls, which are very, very strong, don't get me wrong, but there's not a significant amount of hero damage to come through. And after all is said and done, Soup manages to hold on even after all chaos breaks loose there in the classical age, and he kind of positioned his army, and Keto got himself a really big advantage, but he's able to bring it back with some smart unit choice, smart trades, and Keto just can't convert that advantage. Take a look at this military differential here as well. You can see that Keto so much advantage here, and he does create himself a gigantic resource lead, but when you're playing against not Soup, but Frey, a resource lead realistically either translates into a military lead or technology. But with Frey, it doesn't matter that you're behind, because you can just, you're behind on resources that you don't have to spend because you're getting them for free, or getting them for half price, I should say. So all the resources here that Frey gets is basically equalized on this economic difference. So you have to ignore that, and you have to go completely on kill to loss, which heavily favoring Soup after a couple of poor fights taken by Keto. I'd love to see this tried again now that Keto's given it a go, because I do think this sort of works, but the question is whether or not you ever get this surprise attack on a town center, like, unless you spy the enemy military, and you see them over here. I feel like you've got to be super careful with what's going on there. And yeah, I mean, Soup probably should never go for this town center, 2 town centers there, or 3rd town center in the classical age. But nonetheless, it did manage to keep him in the game by getting it back up afterwards. Very, very interesting matchup here. I guess the other question would be, if you go for Forseti and the Frey player goes for Ulla, what does that look like? Because I'm sure that's kind of what happened early days, but now that Frey is starting to really come into his own and showing that, you know, he is really, really strong god, maybe that Forseti as well isn't enough. Who knows? If you guys are enjoying it, this series, you know, make sure you hit the follow button. We're going to be jumping into the 3rd game. See you there. And we have come to the final game in this 3-game series. Soup in the top of the map, playing as Hades, and now finally Keto in the bottom of the map, playing as Odin. So we've had 3 games, 3 different gods, or 6 different gods. You love to see it. So this was, I don't know if I said this at the start, but this was just a random chance here, ladder sort of session that these guys were playing. They ran into each other 3 games in a row. And I love to see this. I love to see the guys, you know, trying a whole bunch of different gods. When it comes down to it, ladder is a sort of training ground of sorts. You know, you can have a goal to be number 1 on the ladder, but realistically, number 1 on the ladder is mostly just for yourself to feel better. Most of these top players could probably get to the top of the ladder by just playing 1 god. And you don't get the best training out of it if you do that. So you definitely want to be rotating through a whole bunch of gods if you're in the top, let's say 20, top 50 of the ladder. For everyone else, you know, I actually recommend you guys to play 1 god only. Once you get comfortable with that god and you want to try something else out, sure, get into a whole bunch of different gods and enjoy it. But, you know, at the very least, you know, learn that one god, and then you can start working on the fundamentals and stuff of actually playing the game without having to worry about all of the different strategy and differences with all the other good stuff. In the top side of the map, we've got Tower of Cestus here, plus 1x myth units there for the towers. We've got over here this relic. We've got the Anvil of Hephaestus. And we've got over here the Eye of Horus, plus 4 population cap. Over on this side, we've got the Pelt of Argus, LOS plus 6. And we'll see how the game's going to go. But, you know, Soup's Hades, always interesting to watch him play. Like, his build here is really, really clean. It gets him a ton of extra resources over pretty much every other build when playing for a one town center approach. And yeah, it's gonna be really challenging to beat his Hades most of the time. Now, that being said, there are some real big weaknesses to going for a build like this. Number one being if you get rushed. Now, of course, you can drop a Sentinels down and that can be enough to hold on, but you're still going to be under a lot of pressure if it's a myth unit. So say, for example, a Zeus player going for a Labyrinth of Minos rush. The Sentinels aren't going to do a whole lot there. You're going to lose a lot of gather time on the villages, and all of a sudden that early bonus income you're getting from the Vaults of Erebus isn't going to matter a lot when half your villages are idle or dead. So there's that. And then, of course, any sort of aggressive Norse play against Greek players and Egyptian players. There's not really a whole lot of aggressive stuff that they can do, so you don't have to worry all too much there. But we are seeing Soup. He's going to be hitting the classical age much faster than Keto is, because Keto, he is along this approach as well. He believes this as well. The only difference here is, the only thing I find strange here actually from the Keto approach is no economic upgrades. So here is how I see it. As we see Heimdall again. Wow. Okay. This is weird. This is really, really cool. There could be something behind this that I'm not 100% seeing. But there are... These guys are so crazy. All right, so there is... The approach to this late advance time, and the reason why it's good for Hades, obviously you're getting extra income. So you're investing in a technology to give yourself more resources to then do something, right? If you're playing on the other side and you don't have like a really, really strong economic upgrade, you've still got economic upgrades you can grab. So Keto here, he could have himself hand axe and pickaxe. And these things, you know, they pay themselves off relatively quickly. The only downside to this would be you get a later town center. So if he is planning to go for a 5-second town center, then maybe it makes more sense for him to not get those technologies. Though arguably here he would be able to afford both of them and drop the town center straight away as well. As the Berserk coming through, is his Heimdall going to be fast enough is the big question. He drops the Undermine. I'm pretty sure this only does... Well, I don't know. Is it going to be enough? I don't think it's going to be enough. It does not deny this. The Cyclops picks up the Berserk, throws him away, says, "Get out of here, Mr. Berserk." You could have thrown it right next to him and get another auto attack off or something, but decides against that. And he gets his town center up, finishes that one, and we see a very, very smart town center grab now from Keto as the walls are going to be coming through. This is going to help defend this. Over on this side, the Berserk here, retreating away. That did get a Einherry boosted or something there before running the other complete direction, the opposite direction there. As the villager is going to come over here and start grabbing the caribou on the bottom side, but not finishing up this wall will allow maybe an Achilles to come through, maybe some hoplites or something like that. Obviously they can come through on this side as well, but we do have ourselves a very, very Jotunheim-esque map on this side as the Ajax. Whoop. What does he see? He sees some villagers. He sees some villagers. As the Ajax going to be retreating back. He's picked up his relic. He's got enough. Cyclops coming over onto this side. And we will be seeing that Rigstooler technology queued up. The problem, to some degree, for Norse and for Rigsthula is it can be a little bit tricky to get that favor in. Now, you can come over here and just bash down these deer to get the favor in, to get Rigsthula in as fast as possible. You can shoot down all of these caribou as well. So you see the villagers coming back home for the time being here. But it's 2 town centers apiece. There's no significant technological upgrade for Heimdall, which boosts his units or anything like that. That's the thing you have to sort of remember with this god, with Heimdall, with Rigsthula. It's like, if you look at Forseti gets Thundering Hooves, gets Sesrumnir, right? Some huge stat boosting upgrades. Forseti gets Hall of Thanes, gets Mithril Breastplate. Again, huge technological upgrades, stat boosting upgrades. Heimdall doesn't really get that. It just gets more economy, which can make for boosted stats, but eventually that's going to not mean anything, and the Freyr or the Forseti will be the advantage where that's concerned. So it is a really, really weird one when you're going for Heimdall. You have to remember that. You have to put that in the back of your head that you're not going to have that late game advantage. You get the boom, you get a timing attack, but you don't get a late game advantage from Heimdall. You get to hit the late game earlier. All those things apply, but yes, that's about it. You do get the safeguard. Safeguard cannot be forgotten, but this is just bonus HP on your walls and towers, which in reality doesn't really change anything when it comes to the late game. As the Hersir going to be wandering down here. And Soup going for a 3rd town center. Soup probably aware of this fact, knows that, you know, while he's going to be behind on, he might be behind on villager count, he might be behind on economy. He doesn't need to really do anything. He just needs to get himself technologies. He's going to lose his Cyclops over here, unfortunately, as the wall will come back up. The Hersir are going to get a lot of good damage in. Safeguard also on the way. I love this technology for getting town centers down. I highly recommend, if you ever go Heimdall and you're in these boom wars, to drop a village center as well. Go 4 town centers versus the 3 town centers of your opponent, because you're only paying half of the resources for one of them, right? As the Hersir are going to retreat back, and we now see some very, very spicy Hypaspist to come through. And Keto's going to notice this, and we'll see exactly what his decision is going to be here as the villagers moving forward to grab themselves some deer on this spot. There's a Hersir trying to get a little bit of a fight here, but they're not going to take too much damage. He has to retreat back. Still not really having that many military buildings, that much economy here. He's already clicked up through Skadi. One relatively decent answer versus the Hypaspist is going to be Godi. So we can go for that as another wall to come down. This can be so frustrating to play against as the aggressor, because you just keep on trying to break through. You keep on trying to kill this. As soon as the wall is finished, you have to kill off another wall. And then you say, all right, I can't break through. I'll go somewhere else. And then all of a sudden they get a gate and they push forward and they get another wall in. So you have to actually come through and draw a completely perpendicular line here, as we see the walls on this position going to get repaired back up. Now, this does cost resources, but man, frustrating to play against. You've got to get some ranged units in here to prevent this from happening. As Apollo going to get clicked up, and this makes a lot of sense, as Soup's going to have a really strong army. He's going to teleport across, and he's going to be in a good spot. But look at this difference in villager count. What is going on here? I mean, Keto's on 2 town centers. He does have Rigsthula, and he has gone to the heroic age. So there is probably like 4 villager differential here, artificial, or 5 villager artificial differential going on that Keto will catch up on here. And you have his Bow of Horror as well to come through. There's copper armor coming in. We've got Tyr and Winter Harvest as well, as Keto's idea seems to be, well, use Rigsthula, get the quick Mythic Age in. This is going to have a gigantic timing for Soup to hit. Soup's been 3 town centers, had that extra town center for a very long time in this game. So he's going to be able to hit some sort of a timing here. And the question is he going to make a whole bunch of Cyclops or not? Doesn't have the technology. He's got 3 villagers on the temple. So he might go for some Cyclops. He might pump out a whole bunch of units. That's what I want to see. I want to see like huge amount of Hoplite, Hypaspis, Toxotes, and just go with like 3 Cyclops as well. As the tier is about to get clicked up. So incredibly boomy game. As the walls on the front. Going to get taken down. Over on this side. More dwarfs to come through. And we will be seeing a cheeky little stone walls technology to come in to prevent those units from accessing. There's the Toxotes wandering over. And try and break these guys out. The walls getting knocked down is nice. Tier is already on the way. And the question here for Soup is, where to next? Fortress on the front? I mean, he could just go for a Hephaestus thing, get a bunch of Colossus in, and then go for that attack. There is going to be a Skadi, so Frost is in. That does change things a little bit. But then again, like I said earlier, the advantage of Heimdall is just economy. And in this specific game, Soup has managed to get 3 town centers, which means that the economic advantage from Heimdall is just not there for Keto. So all advantage right now is in Soup's back pocket. That being said, tier is going to hit very, very early. That's going to be economic damage. And maybe Keto is going to be able to set up walls, ballista, and an impossible position for Soup to break through. Soup not having access to Bellerophon, which would be the ideal answer against mass ballista. And he is actually going to be going for Hephaestus. Little bit interesting on this one. Like, he's already gotten himself a handful of armory upgrades out, but going through Hephaestus is going to be able to get every single other one through. And he's going to have to just sit here and defend, because this is going to be a huge timing to come in. Those units are looking very, very scary. Fimbulwinter gets dropped down. The stone walls getting broken down on this side as well. Do we see an immediate bravery or not? It looks like the answer is not just yet. Units almost in here. Finally, the smallest choke point on the map, it looks like, as the army starts to charge in, looking for some damage over here. The armory upgrades, the archery upgrades as well to come in as the Hersos trying to break in onto this position and get through to kill off that Manticore. Does get the Frost in there, but the heroes from Soup's army going to be able to take that Frost Giant down very, very quickly. Heavy infantry is in. Huskarls breaking everything else up here as the villagers pushed off the gold mine, and Soup's military numbers are looking very, very small in this game, as it looks to me like Keto is going to be able to get himself a 4-2 town center advantage cooking. But you have to remember, Soup has got Underworld. Now, Underworld with the Frost might be an issue, but even so, one way to play around it is to Underworld, get Frosted, and then pop back over here to kill off this position, as Keto has to return over there to kill off the Underworld. Otherwise, he's going to kill off your town center. So either way, you're going to be able to be on the other side of the map after the Frost finishes, as an idea. As the Berserks are spreading out everywhere, Soup is actually in such a difficult position here. He's making a whole bunch of pacifists, military buildings coming up around here. Of course, the big advantage that's going to be cooking here for Soup is going to be Hephaestus with upgrades. He's going to be able to get that Forge of Olympus tech straight away and then start getting himself those. He is missing... Oh, he's got 3 armories now coming down, as that will take him a little while for those to actually come in. As Bravery coming through all the armory upgrades as well for Keto. The question is, does Keto have the actual economy here to get his own armory upgrades and compete? He's already got Champion, but he's not going to have Iron Armor. So Champion is good up until your opponent has Champion, and that's already queued up here for Soup. There's a hill fort in, 3rd town center through. Couple of heavy Hypaspists to come over and say, get out of here. As the army all retreating back in. And where to next is the big question. I mean, do you make some Baluster and Siege? I would consider, I mean, you're getting the town center back up over here, but just consider getting yourself fully upgraded units and just sitting on this and just waiting. maybe that's the best idea, but that does give time over to Soup to get himself that really, really strong Greek army. That being said, this Greek army has missed that opportunity to have Ares, Apollo, and Artemis. So he still has got Pestilence to break through here. He can make both those hill forts on this position stop shooting and also delaying the production there. But a very, very large Norse army is at the gates of Soup here moving forward. And that's a ton of throwing axemen as well to clean up those pacifists before they can even get any good damage done. The army now comes in. It's bronze armor. Still champion infantry not in just yet. The pacifists on the front are getting cleaned up very, very quickly over here as we see the frost gets dropped down on half of the army here. And Soup gonna have to garrison. He pops over onto this side with those pacifists to kill off the Huskarl there, as the Huskarl is going to be able to tear down the fortress on this position. As those throwing axemen trying to break through here. Has this been a little bit of an overcommitment, though, from Keto? He's actually not microing his throwing axemen either, hitting one of those frozen pacifists. And now he has to retreat back. And Soup, I mean, he's getting upgrades in. He's getting Manticore. I want to see those armory upgrades finished here for him. He's still got to get those through. They're very, very cheap. He's also got the upgrade. Remember that. Look at this. 120 gold for iron weapons. Are you kidding me? Nonetheless, hill forts coming through. 190 population. He's got the champion infantry. He's got a pacifist. Not making any of those. Well, he's got a handful of peltas, which I do like. As the pestilence does get dropped down, hitting all those buildings. Not actually hitting the one on the front, though. Not hitting the one on the front. As the army comes forward. Gonna have to retreat back out of here. Soup could build himself out another not a Cyclops, but Colossus here, but an idea for Soup is just to get himself another Plenty Vault. So even if he's behind on population, he's going to have the economy, so he can trim his economy down and sort of continue to compete here. Now, the other thing here, though, for Keto is he does have this Hunter's Axe, so his throwing axemen do have a little bit more range than they otherwise should do. So that's going to be a big help there. So Toxotes charging forward. Still 13 seconds remaining of Pestilence here as a Colossus is going to come in. And this is a big, big unit. People underrate this unit. It does tear down buildings very, very quickly. Look at this. 50 crush damage, 20 hack damage, and 1380 HP as Hades. So not a small amount there at all. So units coming in, sniping down a villager or two there. The archers, however, they are open. And Soup needs to get back here. He's going to be losing all of his archers. Look at all the wood in the bank as well. As the Colossus getting torn down. Might be able to start eating this. The Goatee going to be able to get too much damage then as the Colossus does fall. And Soup just not able to get himself out. The army. He's only got himself 3 military academies. And 5 archery ranges. It's just not enough here at the moment. So it looks to me like Keto has managed to hold for the time being. How's Keto's armory upgrades looking? He's getting himself bronze shield, still not fully upgraded on the bronze. He does have iron weapons though. That's going to be a huge help at the moment. I do wonder how different this situation would have been if Soup had an earthquake and Shafts of the Plague to play with in this in this specific situation, but it looks to me like Keto, he's still not able to kind of break through the 80s, but he's continuously needing to pull back. He's got 176 population. Does he have a Eye of Horus? Yes, he does. That big fat relic there to help him out on that one. Now, Soup does still have Underworld. There is no Frost at the moment, but look at the favor. So there is a Frost on the cards. Basically. As Keto says, alright, if you're not going to let me win, the traditional way. I will get myself a Titan, and then let's see what you can do there. We're not going to play this waiting game, waiting for you to hit resign when I can just get a Titan out and kill you. Or waiting for you to get into a point where I can't kill you. Huskarl charging forward here. Lots and lots of Peltast on this spot. But Soup going to have to pull back into his main base here. Those Huskarl just absolutely wreak havoc onto an Archer Ball. And Soup tries to micro. He gets a lot of good kills, but he's still losing those Archers way too fast. Has a couple of Heliopoli to roll in. But, like I always say, against Norse, Siege just isn't it. Because those Thrown Axemen are dealing hack damage. So the huge pierce armor that Siege weapons have does not apply to the Thrown Axemen. That just immediately falls here. Soup's still trying to break through onto this spot. I mean, maybe Manticore could be another option here, but he doesn't really have anything. Chimera would have been perfect as a sort of defensive mechanism against the Huskarl because they're doing hack damage, spreadable hack damage as well with that special attack. This army here for Keto is just looking way too powerful. And in that moment, Soup does tap out and Keto finds the dub here. 2-1 in this cheeky little best of 3 series. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Really, really nice ideas here with Keto trying out Heimdall with the Loki and the Odin, having one successful one and one less successful one. But nonetheless, hope you guys enjoyed it. Better luck for Soup with his Hades next time. Keto too strong in this one, but had some good wins on the previous ones. If you guys enjoyed it, please consider the follow on Twitch. If you're on the YouTube, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next game.